Real Talk Radio. Bush Radio.
Bush Radio. Bush Radio.
Bush Radio.
Your Real Talk Radio.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live. As the men in government houses rave up their threats of violence, non-state actors consolidate their positions. The program is State Affairs. I am Edmund Obilo. The language of threat as exhibited by Buhari and taken to a dangerous high by Nyesom Wike, governor of Rivers State from 2015 to 2023, shows one thing. It shows how bloody Nigeria has become. Speaking to young persons gathered to listen to him, Wike called them criminals and promised to kill them and dispose of their bodies if they did not turn a new leaf.
Did they not go down? Did they go down? So, when people say, IPOP, they are carrying juju, no problem. That's what you say. But what's happening? I cannot die. So let nobody deceive you that juju. Don't ever you. So now, take today, all of you criminals who are here, all of you criminals who are here, take today, 2nd of June 2021, and repent. If you don't repent, the period has come. You will die. Your parents will not bury you. We will bury you like vulture. Either your hand will be cut off, or they will blow your head off. Your parents will not even know that you are dead. They will say, oh, their son went to look for money. Which money? The man is gone. And you know, we will not tell your parents that you are gone. Who will tell them? Because an armed robber has no business for us to say he has parents. No. No armed robber has parents. No armed robber. So nobody should, because of what you are doing in Ahuda, challenging people, destroying people, killing them. You go to Yubogo, you go here, you go to the water, bunkering, killing people, and you think you will go free. You will never go free. So, all of you looking at me as if you are my supporter, carry your support and go.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live. That was Wike in 2021. As Wike threatened death, he forgot how he and others encouraged the pain that Nigeria has become. By their politics that breeds poverty and ignorance, they unleash violence on the people. By Wike's threat, he escalated the situation. As he spoke, he exemplified the character of the Nigerian state. Here is a kidnapped traditional ruler in the den of young persons that Wike promised to kill.
His Majesty King Eramila Ikuru wish to state the main cause of my detention or incarceration for the past 5 weeks. The main issue is that we the chiefs we are unable to make peace in Andoni among the rival youth groups. The youths of Andoni are very unhappy with the chiefs and elders and the politicians for this misdemeanor. And also, the inability of the elders above mentioned for providing employment for youth. And whereas we have oil wells in Andoni being operated by companies just like Amni, Totafina Elf, Green Energy International, and Lake Oil and Gas Joint Venture, and so on. It is also the desire of Andoni youths that government amenities should be distributed equally to all the sections of Andoni LGA without bias. The youths are also insisting on the avoidance of indiscriminate arrest of Andoni youths and the unfortunate killings by government and chiefs of Andoni. The youths are saying with a sense of urgency that the chiefs should handle the matter with dispatch. Hence, there will be killings, or there will be killing of chiefs and politicians in Andoni local government area.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
They kidnapped their king, and he read that statement from the kidnapper's den. Now that we are here, we need to persuade, we need to speak to warmongers plotting to kill everybody but themselves to hold their peace. As the men of politics make their threats, I see how weak they have become. Listen. The militant government Ekpemupolo, alias Tompolo, on Sunday the 30th of May 2021, issued a 7-day ultimatum to the federal government to inaugurate the substantive board of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, or hell will be let loose. In a statement, Tompolo said, I quote, I wish to call on Mr. President, members of the National Assembly, and security agencies to work towards the constitution of the substantive board of the NDDC within a few days to avert a total breakdown of law and order. He threatens to disrupt oil exploration in the region if he was not listened to. It was an advice to Buhari and company not to awaken the rage of the Niger Delta. Are you there? Tompolo could not understand why the NDDC was being managed by a sole administrator at the instance of the minister of the Niger Delta. Remember Senator Godswill Akpabio? He is now the Senate President. At the time Tompolo released his statement, Akpabio was the minister of the Niger Delta, Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. Tompolo said that the continued sole administration of NDDC ran contrary to the provisions of the Act setting up the commission. The militant leaders said it is undemocratic, anti-development, and unacceptable. The Act establishing the commission provides that it will be administered by a board comprising of a chairman, managing director, executive directors, and commissioners to be drawn from the 9 oil-producing states. The 9 oil-producing states of Nigeria are Abia, Akwa Ibom, and Bayelsa, including Cross Rivers. The others are Delta, Edo, Imo, Ondo, and Rivers State. As Tompolo threatened fire, I learned that Akpabio arrived Delta State to plead with him to the extent that he begged for the extension of the 7-day ultimatum. Akpabio wanted more time. He got the time he negotiated for. But does that explain anything to you? That a non-state actor would give the state ultimatum to act, or hell will be let loose. And the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs flew to Delta State to negotiate with the militant. What does that tell you about the character of the Nigerian state? Tompolo rattled Buhari's federal government. Akpabio, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, had to travel to go negotiate with him. You would think that the government would arrest him. So it speaks of the weakness of the Nigerian state. So today, you also have bandits in different parts of the country giving orders to the Nigerian state, and the state is negotiating. Groups and persons are acquiring resources to confront the state, and they are carrying out their threats with ease. They are consolidating their positions, leading to unimaginable consequences. As we speak, bandits are demanding millions of naira, and they are holding their grounds in different parts of northern Nigeria. Recently, they invaded Orire local government area and kidnapped teachers, pupils. They beheaded a teacher. That happened in Tinubu's time. You know what this means? It means that the men in government houses are losing their authorities and legitimacies as the people take sides. If you go to the Lake Chad Basin, there are Nigerians taking side with Boko Haram. There are Nigerians who believe that Boko Haram is operating in their own interest. What does this demand? It demands serious introspection before darkness overtakes the land. The elections are here. Nigerians will be going to the polls in 2027. They did in 2023. They did under inclement weather. Terrorism, banditry has been with us. It is now usual. Tompolo could threaten the state, and the state shivered. The way bandits are brought to government house to negotiate with governors. Some would say the Niger Delta is a different ball game entirely. That in the case of the Niger Delta, it is the quest for resource control. It is the quest for the effective and efficient management of oil resources. Yes, but what about the method? The method of calling the attention of government. They are similar methods. And in this story of Tompolo, is a reminder of where the Niger Delta is coming from. The crisis in the Niger Delta has been brewing since the 1960s. We'll come to that. Remember, Muhammadu Buhari ordered a forensic audit of the operations of the NDDC from 2001 to 2019. The president had said that the level of development in the region was not commensurate with the huge resources made available to the commission, hence the audit. This led to the appointment of 2 interim management committees led by Joy Nunian and Kemebra Dikumo Pondai to oversee the audit. They were both sacked after allegations and counter-allegations of corruption that brought them before the National Assembly. You would remember this scene. Akpabio, before the National Assembly.
Development Commission, because of the fact that we are doing forensic audit, the NDDC plays a vital role in ensuring the peace and security of the region. And 90% or more of the resources of the country on a monthly basis comes from there. If you close it down in totality, all you have will be chaos. And you have a lot of, not just militancy, but you have a lot of insurrection. So it is important that people who have gone to court, people who genuinely did jobs, should be paid for their jobs. So for me, I'm not against it because of course, who are even the greatest beneficiaries? It's you people now. Okay. Because if you look at your chairman,
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, that's okay. That's okay.
No, can I ask you that question? What is the benefit that the National Assembly is benefiting from?
It's okay, it's okay.
Are you asking me the benefit of National Assembly?
Yes, you just said.
I just told you that we have record to show that most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. The two chairmen can explain to you. That is why I was a member. I was a member of the NDDC committee.
It's okay. It's okay.
Wait, you were a member of the NDDC and lot of you were a member of the NDDC in the 8th Assembly, and are you telling me that lots of jobs were awarded to you as a member?
No, this is the problem. That's why I said you
then
must.
You have the right to accuse people. They wanted to bring up
can you
people
please listen to me? One of the chairmen
if
also.
you were not awarded a contract, then why are you coming here that you are aware that you were a member of the NDDC and lots of contracts were awarded to you? You said I'm not aware. I'm telling you that bring up those dates.
May I inform my honorable sister that is why we have to change.
Honorable Minister, please. It's okay. That is okay. That is okay.
But let me explain.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Let me explain.
It's okay.
Now.
It's okay.
You must not allow the two chairmen
to accept
the budget every
It's
year.
okay. Up your mic. It's okay.
Up
your mic, Honorable Minister.
You are like me. I was a member like you. I did not know what was going on.
Honorable Minister.
Yes,
it's okay.
Yes, Chairman.
You guys sit down. It's okay. Coco.
You're listening to Bush Radio. Bush Radio. Your real talk radio.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Akpabio is now the president of the Nigerian Senate. At the time he appeared before the House of Representatives Committee, he was the Minister of the Niger Delta, Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. How time flies. You listened to the revelations that he made at that committee hearing. And Buma wanted to hear more. But the chairman of the committee was saying, it's okay. It's okay. Akpabio should not spill more. It is the character of the state. It is how the Nigerian state is wired. It's about politics. It's about power. Nigeria in crisis, oil, politics, and debt. The NDDC was then run by Effiong Akwa, appointed by the Buhari government in December 2020 as acting executive director of finance and administration. The Niger Delta Development Commission is a federal government agency set up in August 2000 by the Olusegun Obasanjo administration to respond to the demands of the neglected Niger Delta for equitable share of the oil resource in their land. The NDDC has the mandate to formulate policies for the development of the Niger Delta. The agency is also responsible for tackling ecological and environmental problems arising from the exploration of oil in the Delta. Has the Commission met its mandate? How can it, when it has become a cesspit of corruption? Is that not the reason Buhari called for forensic audit? Did anything good come out of the audit? Your answer should be clear. Nothing good came out of it. So at the end of the day, they were all bluffing. This reminds me of the crisis in the Niger Delta. And as the elections draw closer, I am watching the presidential candidates. They will come, say the same thing, act the same way, and the problems persist. So there are times you ask, who will bear the cart? Is it Sheyi Makinde of the Allied People's Movement? Or Peter Obi of the NDC? Or Atiku Abubakar of the ADC? Tinubu has had his time. The problem persists. Is it Omoyele Sowore of AAC? As we reflect on the threat by Tompolo, the crisis in the NDC, we should not forget that there was an Ogoni crisis in the Niger Delta. Before the Ogoni crisis, there was the Isaac Adakaboro uprising in the 1960s. 1966 to be precise. We shouldn't forget. History always presents us the opportunities to protect the future. It is left for those who recognize the opportunities to take advantage of time and enact ideas that lifts the present and puts the picture of the future in a proper frame. That is what we intend to achieve on this edition of State Affairs. We want to look back and say, we have come this far. Why have we not solved the problems? Because of the unprecedented violence that besieges the Nigerian state of today. Fundamental issues like that of the crisis in the Niger Delta have been swept under the carpet. But these are the key issues that determine the development of the state. We've talked about the restructuring of the Nigerian state, the redefinition of revenue formula. We have looked at the 6th geopolitical zone and the 36 states of the Federation, and some have called for a new architecture of the national structure. These calls are intense. These calls have been there. How far have we gone as a people to relieve ourselves of the problems we created for ourselves? Okay, let's look at business. Businesses are established to make profit. But businesses are also meant to invest profit into the societies from where they operate. And when they do this, they build fruitful relationship. And because of that fruitful relationship, they increase their market shares. And this is why the federal government in May 2008 approved the development of a corporate social responsibility policy for Nigeria. The idea was to spur businesses to show responsibility in the wake of the aggressive privatization of government businesses and the deregulation of market for competition. Business is to add value to society. Yes, Dangote is a billionaire. But Dangote has the responsibility to deploy some of his profit to national development. That is why billionaires are national treasures. They are also instruments of development, but in this case, it comes from the private sector. We've not been able to drive that idea keenly. If you watch the documentary, The Men Who Built America, Cornelius Vanderbilt, they built America with private resources. They also drove America to extreme capitalism. Perhaps the reason the world is so chaotic, that drive for profit, and in that case, all is fair in getting profit. Through corporate social responsibility, business is compelled to give to society. Sadly, society is in deep lack, and the reluctance by multinationals to plow back adequate resources to host communities leads to conflict. In the case of Ogoniland, oil turned to blood. It is the interrogation of the actors and observers of events culminating in the execution of the Ogoni 9 by the Abacha government that we now turn our attention to. It is the reason Sarawiwa is dead. But the dead are still with us. They are not gone, and you can feel it in the voice of Sarawiwa.
I accuse the ethnic majority who run Nigeria of practicing genocide against the Ogoni people. I accuse the oil companies which prospect for oil in Ogoni of encouraging genocide against the Ogoni people. I accuse Shell and Chevron of practicing racism against the Ogoni people because they do in Ogoni what they do not do in other parts of the world where they prospect for oil. The devastation of the Ogoni countryside, the complete destruction of the Ogoni ecosystem, the dehumanization of the Ogoni people, the denial to them of education and other health facilities and other social amenities, all these together have led the Ogoni down the way of extinction. I accuse the Nigerian government and the international, multinational companies which prospect for oil in Ogoni of genocide. I appeal to the international community, to the British government, the American government, the Japanese government, the countries of the European community who buy oil from Nigeria to come now to the aid of the Ogoni people and stop this genocide.
You heard the voice of Ken Saro-Wiwa. Ken Saro-Wiwa is no more. They took him out. They took him out. Did he play into their hands? Was Ken Saro-Wiwa cautious enough? Anyway, it's about blood. When oil turns to blood, Ken Saro-Wiwa is dead. Look at this book. This book is entitled Blood and Oil. Blood and Oil. Mohammed bin Salman's ruthless quest for global power. Have you read the book? Mohammed bin Salman's ruthless quest for global power. Blood and Oil. Now, if you read this book, you'll be able to connect the relationship between profit, oil, and the struggle for who controls it. Yes, this book talks about Saudi Arabia. But remember that Saudi Arabia represents oil, one of the largest oil-producing countries in the world. So when you read a story like this, if you have ever wondered what would happen if limitless money met limitless power, then I'll tell you, wonder no longer. You will find it in this book. If you want to understand what happens if limitless money met limitless power, then this is the book to read. It is entitled Blood and Oil. Mohammed bin Salman's ruthless quest for global power. It's a book written by Brandley Hope and Justin Skirk. Now, why do I recommend books? Because I have felt the powers of books. I am a testimony of the power of reading. I studied electrical and electronics engineering as my first degree. But when I came into journalism, I came in confidently. I could analyze, I could speak on national subjects. At some point, they wanted to deny me the role because they saw electrical and electronics engineering. But I explained to them, I am a reader of world politics. See, in this age of algorithmic fields, in this age of algorithms, the act of sitting quietly with a book can feel unusual. You are with your phone, you're surfing away, you are chatting. So holding a book can be unusual in this age. Yet, if you are able to hold a book, you will discover that reading is the bedrock of human progress. Reading is the operating system for both personal enlightenment and national prosperity. To undervalue reading is to stunt the mind. To undervalue reading is to stunt the mind. To champion reading is to build a superpower. On an individual level, reading is the most accessible form of high-yield investment. When you read, you are making investment into your life, and that investment is high-yield investment. There's a lot to profit from it. You see, one of the reasons Africa is yet to compete with the rest of the world is due to the low intellectual output coming from here. Africans are not reading enough. Deep reading. So that is why this book is important. Blood and Oil. Mohammed bin Salman's ruthless quest for global power. When we talk about oil, we talk about politics too. You will see how members of the political class operate. You listen to Akpabio there. Let's listen to Akpabio again, and then we'll break it down.
Because of the fact that we are doing forensic audit, the NDDC plays a vital role in ensuring the peace and security of the region. And 90% or more of the resources of the country on a monthly basis comes from there. If you close it down in totality, all you have will be chaos. And you have a lot of, not just militancy, but you have a lot of insurrection. So it is important that people who have gone to court, people who genuinely did jobs, should be paid for their jobs. So for me, I'm not against it because, of course, who are even the greatest beneficiaries? It's two people now. Okay. Because if you look at your chairman,
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, that's okay. That's okay.
No, can I ask you that question? What is the benefit that the National Assembly is benefiting from?
It's okay, it's okay.
Are you asking me the benefit of National Assembly?
Yes, you just said.
I just told you that we have record to show that most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. The two chairmen can explain to you. That is why I was a member. I was a member of the NDDC committee.
It's okay. It's okay.
Wait, you were a member of the NDDC and you were a member of the NDDC in the 8th Assembly, and are you telling me that lots of jobs were awarded to you as a member?
No, this is a problem. That's why I said you
then
must.
You have the right to accuse people. Then why can't you bring up
Can you please
people
listen
that
to me? One of the chairmen
if
also.
you were not awarded a contract, then why are you coming here that you are aware that you were a member of the NDDC and lots of contracts were awarded to you? You said I'm not aware. I'm telling you that. Bring up those names.
May I inform my honorable sister that is why we have to change.
Honorable Minister, please. It's okay. That is okay. That is okay.
But let me explain.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Let me explain.
It's okay.
Now.
It's okay.
You must not allow the two chairmen to accept the budget every
It's
year.
okay. Off your mic. It's okay.
Off
your mic, Honorable Minister.
You are like me. I was a member like you. I did not know what was going on.
Honorable Minister.
Yes,
it's okay.
Yes, Chairman.
You guys sit down. Sit down. It's okay. Coco.
Stay State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live. Stay tuned.
Did they not go down? Did they go down? So, when people say, IPOP, they are carrying juju, no problem. That's what you say. But what's happening? Are they not dying? So let nobody deceive you that juju. Don't ever you. So now, take today, all of you criminals who are here, all of you criminals who are here, take today, 2nd of June 2021, and repent. If you don't repent, the period has come. You will die. Your parents will not bury you. We will bury you like vulture. Either your hand will be cut off, or they will blow your head off. Your parents will not even know that you are dead. They will say, oh, their son went to look for money. Which money? The man is gone. And you know, we will not tell your parents that you are gone. We'll tell them. Because an armed robber has no business for us to say he has parents. No. No armed robber has parents. No armed robber. So nobody should, because of what you are doing now, challenging people, destroying people, killing them. You go to Yubogo, you go here, you go to the water, bunkering, killing people, and you think you will go free. You will never go free. So, all of you looking at me as if you are my supporter, carry your supporter and go.
Okay, that was Wike in his element while he was the governor of Rivers State. So one book that reveals the character of Nigeria's political leadership is this book entitled My Participations, an Autobiography. It is one of the most revealing autobiography by a political leader in Nigeria. It is the autobiography of Chief Bisi Akande, a former governor of Osun State. If you read this book, you will be exposed to the character of the political class at a deeper level. Because this former governor took his time and he was ready to say, let the heavens fall. If they want to take me to court, let them go ahead. He told revealing stories about Obasanjo, Tinubu, Nigerian politics. This is an account of Nigerian politics. My Participation by Bisi Akande. You'll find these books on udarabooks.com. And you can also order this book through Udara Books WhatsApp number. The number is scrolling on the screen. And the website is also on the screen. These books will help. Remember, to undervalue reading is to stunt the mind. To champion reading is to build a superpower. On an individual level, reading is the most accessible form of high-yield investment. Reading makes us sharper. It grants us the theory of mind necessary to navigate complex social and professional landscapes. When last did you read a book? I'm going to recommend about 12 books to you on this edition of State Affairs, and you'll find other books on udarabooks.com. It is the story of business. It is the story of politics. It is the oil story. It is about the crisis in the Niger Delta. And it defines the politics we play. Ken Saro-Wiwa talked about genocide. In 1956, oil was found in Nigeria in a joint operation of Royal Dutch Shell and British Petroleum. Production began in 1958, and they were joined by other foreign oil companies in the 1960s after the country gained independence from Britain. Not long into exploration, then the reluctance by multinationals and governments to use profit for the development of host communities led to conflict. Ijaw nationalist Isaac Adaka-Burrow led the first uprising. In the early years of Nigeria's independence, Adaka-Burrow was in the front of the campaign for minority rights in the Niger Delta. He formed a militia known as the Niger Delta Volunteer Force, demanding a good share for communities of the proceeds of oil. He demanded a good share for communities from the proceeds of oil. On the 23rd of February 1966, Adaka-Burrow's militia declared the Niger Delta Republic. In a 12-day war with the federal government of Nigeria, the militia was defeated and its members arrested for treason. So it was the Niger Delta that first declared independence out of Nigeria. It was a 12-day war that was led by Isaac Adaka-Burrow against the Nigerian state. It was during the government of Aguiyi Ironsi. In a 12-day war with the federal government of Nigeria, Adaka-Burrow's militia was defeated and its members arrested for treason. At the outbreak of the Nigerian Civil War in May 1967, Burrow and his comrades were pardoned and enlisted to fight the war on the Nigerian side. He was killed on the 9th of May 1968 near Okrika. Have you listened to my interview with Alabi Sama? If you go on my YouTube channel, you'll find that interview. Adaka-Burrow fought under his command. He was there when Isaac Adaka-Burrow was killed. So if you scroll down this YouTube channel, you'll find that interview with Alabi Sama. Sama is the author of the book Tragedy of Victory, the Nigerian Civil War in the Atlantic Theater. He fought under the 3rd Marine Commando. Let me bring part of that interview. I asked Alabi Sama to tell me about Adaka-Burrow. He has this story to tell. Alabi Sama is a good storyteller.
You know, he was a student union leader.
Yes, Nsukka, I was told. He told me that.
Even before the war, he had launched the 12-day revolution.
They told me. He too told me. He told me because I asked him why was he fighting the federal government. He was fighting the federal government because of the oil.
So he was a revolutionary in that war?
Yes. The answer is yes.
He believed in the cause of Nigeria?
Yeah, well, he believed in the cause of the rivers if Nigeria will accept his conditions. the Rivers people, if Nigeria will accept his condition. What were his conditions? We will share the oil. We will have majority. You can't have majority. He wanted the oil to be shared among the states in the country, the regions, but now we gave it to individuals. We were silly. We are silly.
So he had that in mind while fighting for Nigeria.
That's exactly why he fought. That's why he fought against Nigeria. You know, he fought against Nigeria to start with.
Yes.
Yes.
Then he was arrested.
Yes.
And later released.
Yes.
And he joined the Nigerian army.
Yes.
So while the army war was going on, he still had that same belief that led to the earlier agitation.
Yes.
You know, as we tell these stories, also reflect on the coming elections. We are raising these issues to remind all Nigerians that we are yet to address the fundamental problems bedeviling this country. The reason some are saying to your tent, O Israel, the reason bandits are holding the country to ransom, terrorists on the prowl, insecurity holds the land down. So when you see a presidential candidate in the 2027 elections, what questions will you be asking? I have questions to ask Seyi Makinde. He is the governor of Oyo State. He is the presidential candidate of the Allied People's Movement. Soon, I want to hear him talk about these issues. What are his plans for the Niger Delta? What about the question of Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB in the southeast? These are fundamental issues, and they cannot be swept under the carpet because they are intense. They define national character. So, for a governor who has now emerged as a presidential candidate, he has a lot to tell Nigerians. For Peter Obi and co, they've been around. We've heard a lot from them. So the ball is in the court of the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, to begin to unveil his plans, giving us inklings about how he intends to solve the problems of the Niger Delta, the problems of resource control, the distribution of wealth among Nigerians. Born on the 10th of September 1938 in Oloibiri, where oil was first discovered, Isaac Adakaboro left the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where he was the student union president, to pursue his 12-day revolution. See, these guys were revolutionaries. He left the university to go and pursue his revolution. He paid for it. You know, some would insinuate that he was assassinated during the war. But if you listen to my interview with Alabi Sama, he said it was a lone Biafran soldier that was hiding in the creek that shot him. So you can still see that argument, a lone Biafran soldier. In fact, Alabi Sama used the word ragtag to describe the soldier. It was a single shot that took down Isaac Adakaboro, according to Alabi Isama. Now, if you listen to Nwike's rhetoric, he was talking about Biafran youths, where he threatened to kill them. That tells you that the problems of the 1960s live with us. And we must find a way to solve these problems. The ball is in our court. No one can build the country for us. But one thing I know, to build a country, the human spirit must rise. For nations to rise, the human spirit must rise. For nations to rise, leaders must be able to embark on a journey to Sambisa. It is symbolic. It can be philosophical. And someone was asking me, why do you say tourism to Sambisa? I said insecurity is the biggest problem of Nigeria. For any presidential candidate, he must have a way to solve that problem. Let's bring in the philosopher king, Dr. Yemi Farumbi. While Azika Dakaburu was schooling at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, Yemi Farumbi was also a student during that period. So Farumbi comes in here to break down the Niger Delta conundrum, to broaden the perspective of the listener, and to remind us that the journey ahead is a rough one. Yemi Farumbi on State Affairs.
From the community, Oluibiri, where oil was discovered.
Oil was first discovered in 1958.
So when he formed the Joe Volunteer Force, was it clear at the time that a time bomb had exploded in the Niger Delta?
You see, it had, but we didn't see it because we refused to see it. And because at that time, oil was not too significant in our revenue calculation. It became significant at about 1970, 71, and so on. When oil came in 1958, it was not important. In fact, if it was important, I'm sure the British wouldn't have left. They would still be here. They would have shown better interest in staying longer, But we didn't listen to what he was saying. We didn't even understand what he was saying. Somebody ought to have asked, why will a university student abandon his education to go and fight when he was in train?
And in February 1966, he declared the Niger Delta Republic.
That was the time to have started an exercise that would probably have resolved this matter. We would have found out what really is the issue. Like I said earlier, Nigeria is not the only country producing crude oil from Delta. But Nigeria is the only country producing crude oil from an area and abandoning that area. How does a hen lay eggs for you and you refuse to give it maize?
On a good day, should we have studied the Adakaburu instinct at the time?
I believe so.
A country that don't learn from history will not understand why Isaac Adakaburu took up arms against the state. He died in 1968. Adakaburu was a man you saw in the University of Nigeria in Nsukka.
Yes.
What did you see in him as a student union leader?
First and foremost, in those days, at the University of Nigeria, the man who easily could emerge as a president would be an Igbo man. But here was a Niger Delta person who we all unanimously elected because he had revolutionary concepts about governance, even at student union level. He had revolutionary concepts about relationship between the university management and the student. If you remember then, as at that time, the University of Nigeria was being managed by Michigan State University. And it appeared that they just came and wanted to translate what they had in Michigan to University of Nigeria. And in many dialogue, he drew attention to this. You have to domesticate whatever you are bringing. You have to look at the reality of the Nigerian situation. I found him an eloquent speaker. I found him a very intelligent person. I found him a left of the center politician who subscribed, as at that time, like many of us, to the Marxist doctrine. But at the same time, he felt bad about his people because he left the university. He didn't finish. He left the university because he couldn't stand the fact that there was oil spillage in his area.
You can also join this discourse. You can also join the discourse. Let me know what you think by leaving your comments, by sharing, by also calling. You can call on WhatsApp. You can call on WhatsApp. You can call that number that's scrolled on the screen. Okay, let's bring back the number. Okay, it's on the screen now. You can call that number. That is 08039918449. You can call that number to join the discourse. You heard the voice of Dr. Yemi Farumbi, Nigeria's former ambassador to the Philippines, renowned broadcaster, politician, technocrat, speaking about Isaac Adakaboro. That is the power of history. Understanding where we are coming from is key to understanding what the future will bring. And reading opens the mind to that understanding. That is why another book I'm recommending to you is this one entitled The Scramble for Africa. Adakaboro was resisting the scramble for Nigeria by multinational oil companies. He was fighting against that scramble. But I wish he knew that the most dangerous scramble would be the scramble of the political leadership over domestic resources, and that they would plunge the country into a civil war. So The Scramble for Africa by Thomas Pakenham is one book that reveals the underpinning of the resource war in Africa round the world. The Scramble for Africa is a must-read for any African that have revolutionary instinct, for anyone who intends to go into business and is saying, how do I use business to develop my people, my country? The Scramble for Africa is a must-read for every student of political science, every student of history, and every student that reads a book of knowledge. The Scramble for Africa is on udarabooks.com. A nation that reads is a nation that innovates. If reading builds the individual, it fortifies the nation. Reading is the engine of economic mobility because Africans don't read enough. They are behind in world innovation. That is why you can hardly find libraries in African communities. You go to Europe, America, you find libraries. They are reading. That is why they are leading in innovation. To read is to lead. So the third book I'm recommending to you on this edition of State Affairs is The Scramble for Africa. You'll find the book on udarabooks.com, and that number on the screen is the number of State Affairs and Udara Books. You can also call that number to join the discourse. We're taking it nice and slow. So the number to call is 080-999-18449. Okay, let's look at the story from this angle. The Boro Revolt was the first armed uprising against independent Nigeria. The struggle would blow up in the Ogoni crisis against government and oil companies later on. Non-violent opposition to oil companies by the Ogoni people in the early 90s is born out of the contamination of their land and the lack of benefit from oil revenue to the people of Ogoni land. According to Ledum Mite, a former president of the Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP, he said trouble started when, as children, they were attracted by the sight of vehicles and some white men in their school compound. He said before long, loud explosions were heard on their football field. Shell started operations in 1958 in Miti's village in Ogoni land. So Ledum Mite says that he is aware that Shell did not enter into negotiations with the villagers before commencing oil exploitative activities. Mite says that they usually secured mining leases from the federal authorities without reference to local communities. Armed with these leases, they enter the land, bulldoze crops and sacred places for which they pay ridiculous compensation determined by them. So, in October 1990, under the leadership of the environmentalist Ken Saro-Wiwa, the Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People, MOSOP, presented the Ogoni Bill of Rights to the government of the Nigerian Federation. That bill hoped to gain political and economic autonomy for the Ogoni people, giving them control of the resources in their land and protecting the environment from further harm. Before long, the struggle took a violent turn. In May 1994, young persons aggrieved by the situation in Ogoni land descended on the palace of the paramount traditional ruler, Beremene of Gokana. That day, they killed 4 prominent Ogoni elders. I don't know if you have seen Ike Okonta's book, the book he wrote in 2008, entitled When Citizens Revolt. Let me read from the book. It's a book you should read. We don't have it on udarabooks.com. But if you can find it, read it. It will teach you a lot about the Niger Delta. In the book, Ike Okonta states, the angry crowd that gathered in Gyoku on the 20th of May was a child of this bloody repression. In Gokana, NICOP officials had risen. In Gokana, NICOP officials had risen to stop the meeting of the elders. They feared that the moderates gathering on the eve of the delegates' election were hatching a plot to subvert the democratic will of the Gukana people. Ike Okunta continues in his book, but they certainly did not contemplate cold-blooded murder. They knew too well what the consequences would be. Government officials did not conduct investigations into the grisly events of that afternoon before they declared Ken Saro-Wiwa and NICOP officials guilty of murder and arrested them the next morning. I just read from Ike Okunta's book, When Citizens Revolt. Before the killing of the elders, the Rivers State military government set up the Internal Security Task Force to check the rising tension in Ogoniland. All this were happening under the military regime of Abacha. At that time, Dauda Komo was the military administrator of Rivers State. Dauda Komo, acting on the orders of Abacha, set up the Internal Security Task Force to check the rising tension in Ogoniland. To some, Saro-Wiwa's nemesis was Major Paul Okuntimu. He was the head of the task force. It was Okuntimu's task force in the Abacha regime that went into Ogoni to arrest Saro-Wiwa and members of MOSOP. Major Paul Okuntimu would later become a brigadier general in the Nigerian army until he retired. He died not too long ago. I had this interview with Okuntimu in 2013 when I was investigating the Ogoni crisis. By this time, Okuntimu had retired from the military, but he had a lot to say. He gave his own account of what happened. I queried him, I took him up, he stood his ground. Paul Okuntimu on State Affairs. Let me take you back to one of your statements.
Yes.
You admitted that Shell contributed to the logistics through financial support. To do that, we needed resources, and Shell provided this.
Not me.
You didn't say that.
It is a quotations of propaganda against my personality.
You didn't tell journalists.
I was always against Shell for what they are, for what they had been, and I always represent Ogoni's interests when it comes to defending the dehumanization of their land, of their people, of their daughters, of their sons.
So are you saying that Shell did not sponsor the Nigerian army to
Shell
invade Ogoniland?
did not give one kobo. Shell did not give a vehicle. Shell did not say thank you to anybody. Do you know what Shell used to tell me? Shell will tell you that the federal government owns 60% of the Shell's operation in Nigeria, and that the federal government is defending the interest of that particular share percentage that they own. That they are not defending the interest of Shell. They are defending the interest of what they own in what Shell is operating. And they did not do anything that was appreciable to me as a person and to my own, to my men.
And it was reported that you drove in a Shell truck and you came to a public square in Ogoniland where you shot a young man dead.
What is the name of that place?
But did you do that?
What is the name of the place that we drove to?
In the Ogoni village of Korokoro, Okuntimu stormed the village in his usual malevolent and frenzied manner in a shell's vehicle and personally shot dead poor Udebari Nna. Jibs Nna, his elder brother, just collected compensation which Shell paid at the United States District Court in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah, what was my own defense there as a person? What was my own side of the story?
So what is your side of the story?
Is it now that they have already paid somebody for a compensation that I will now be telling you the side of the story?
But what do you have to say about this?
I have to tell you that this is just part of the black propaganda that they have put forward in order for them to be able to earn compensation, which they have already gotten. I am an admired officer by my colleague, by my contemporary, by way and manner that I put my own operation and I come out successfully in all wars that I have fought. I have been into 5 operations. I have never failed. I have been to more than 15 battles and I have not failed. I have come out with commendations here and there. And then why is it that in Ogoni that is just the simplest operation that anybody now will come and then be pointing a finger that is rotting against my efficient self?
Did you believe at that time, and do you still believe that Ken Saro-Wiwa knew what happened to the 4 elders of Ogoniland, including Edward Kobani?
You see, we have to follow the scenario. You know, the face of the killing of 4 was the last chapter of Ogoni crisis. Before then, it was restoring of law and order. Can you understand? And during the process of trying to restore law and order, there was a division among the elders, among the leaders of Ogonis. Some of the leaders wanted dialogue peacefully to resolve the crisis. The side of Ken could not longer wait. They say Shell must not come to Ogoni for any operation. And the youth were engineered to make sure that not one of Shell's staff was there. And apart from that, there were some people that were badge saboteurs in Ogoni land themselves. Maybe you didn't know. And there were some personalities that were targeted and they were eliminated. The houses of the first class chief were burnt off. It was rampage. They sent police out. They destroyed their barracks. They looted their armory. And they sealed off Ogoni land from anybody to come except there is a written note from Ken giving you permission to enter Ogoni land. I entered Ogoni land and make sure that there was no roadblock to stop anybody from passing from Port Harcourt to Akwa Ibom.
Who killed the 4 elders?
The 4 elders
yes.
was killed by the Nikos.
Were they sent by Ken?
They were recruited by Ken.
Were they recruited, or NICOP was an organization on its own?
Does it just germinate like seed?
Were they not sons of Ogoniland?
Even if they were, because of the class of their age, because of their formative stage, because of their inability to be able to reason like you and myself, because they lack intellectual engineering. You see, they are easily motivated negatively.
Were they vultures, the elders? Were they sharing money at different times?
I don't know.
The youth went to the palace believing that they were sharing money at that point in time that they got from Shell and from the Nigerian government.
Are you saying the mother at Gyoko?
Yes.
No. That interpretations and presentation is wrong.
What were the elders doing in the palace at that time?
They were called by Benimini Gokana to celebrate the appointment of one of Ogonisan as commissioners. And they equally want to address some situation on the ground. so as to end the feud that engulfed the entire Ogoni land. So they called all the elders.
So their intentions were misread.
By who?
By those who invaded the palace.
No, they only took advantage of coming together to hit on them. The purpose of the meeting is different from what they met on the ground. Even though somebody like Bade will not attend, somebody like Kubade will not attend, because Kubade, Letton, Bade, Birabi, and so many of them, they know the role that Ken is playing, and they are never friends. They were never friends.
What was the role that Ken was playing?
He usurped the power of the leadership of Mossop and kick off all those that were before all those that were before him.
For the interest of the Ogoni people or for self-interest?
He has self-interest also.
But he was also fighting for the people.
If he was fighting for the people, then he wouldn't have done some few things that he did in intention. He has some selfish motives.
These were the crimes you accused Ken and his group of committing. You said, one, they deposed legal traditional rulers and installed new ones.
Mm-hmm.
That they refused to allow local government chairmen to carry out their jobs.
Exactly.
That they set up their own law enforcement and security agencies.
Exactly so.
That they set up their own judicial processes.
Exactly so.
That they invented the term vulture as a means of dealing with the enemy.
It's a code, yes.
They introduced cannibalism.
Exactly.
When you say cannibalism, how do you mean?
I don't want to go into that now.
Why not tell us?
No, cannibalism is a simple definition that anybody can go into dictionary and get out the meaning.
Did you say they were eating men and women?
I don't want to go into that.
Okay, let me remind you of what you said in the Oputa panel.
Yes.
You said on that fateful day,
yeah,
I went around Gyoku village for a rescue mission without success.
Mm-hmm.
The following day, May 2nd, the search continued until reliable information took us to the spot where the Ogoni 4 were butchered and roasted for consumption. Butchered and roasted for consumption.
Yes,
is that the cannibalism you're talking about?
No. Just continue. You have not finished.
It was me that picked the bits and pieces of the bone thrown away together.
Exactly.
Which I brought to the government house
and
in a bag.
Yes, exactly. That's true.
You sure they consumed the body of the 4 elders?
Well, what I saw was what I gathered together. What I gathered together was what I took into the bag. And what I took into the bag is what I took straight.
Bush Radio.
Bush Radio. Bush Radio.
Bush Radio.
Your Real Talk Radio.
State Affairs with Edmond Nobilo is live. Stay tuned.
Okay, that's Major Paulo Kuntimu, the man who went into Ogoni land to disrupt the peace there, according to some. Okay, we have a caller here. Let's listen to him. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Edmund. Good day.
Thank
this
you.
This is Mr. David from Australia. I just wanted to appreciate you for a very good discussion. YouTube has a way of appreciating content creators, so I sent a super chat. It's a way of contributing some financial support to the creator to appreciate it. I think your discussion is one that is very, very timely and very valid. And I like how you tie this into the election from the Ogoni and the oil exploration. I think it is very clear that Nigeria is a country that is, in a lot of ways, a crime scene, because there are several people who have committed crimes on this land of Nigeria, and when they are faced with the evidence, like you tried to do in that discussion just now, these people defer to, coming up with frivolous claims that such persons are cannibals and things like that. But as I said in the last discussion I had with you, I said a Nigerian president or leader need not worry about Russia or America or whatever. The people who are part of your household are the people that will be used against you. For the same way they did for Sankara, the same way they did for Nkrumah, the same way they did for several great leaders. So the people around you as a leader are the people you should be careful about, because they are the people that the so-called wicked people are going to use by giving them little penance, and they will turn on you at the next move. But to conclude my point on this call, as I said before in my last call as well, agencies, institutions are the core pillars that hold the democracy together. If you go for a democracy for an autocracy or an authoritarian government, then that is a different case. But in a democracy, institutions meaning things like your FBI, like your CIA, like your EFCC, like your ICPC, like your INEC, those are the institutions that hold together what you call a democracy. And if you don't have that, you essentially have a country that is going to the pit. So until we fix those institutions, we cannot really claim to have any form of functioning democracy. We can keep looking for a savior, Jesus Christ, a fantastic leader, but without institutions, once he dies, like in the case of Gaddafi, controversially, everything will go to the end. Or if he gets removed, like in the case of Nkrumah and what have you, then you will have another person who will come in and who will usurp everything and who will mess everything up. So institutions are what hold democratic governance, and without good institutions, the country goes to the bottom of the pit. Thank you so much for your discussion, Mr. Edmond. I'm your avid listener. I listen every day, all the way from Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you. He donated to the show. Thank you for your generosity. And he did that through YouTube. It is the story of Nigeria, the fundamental problems that we must tackle as a people. You can join the discourse. Do we have the capacity to tackle the problems? When Ken Saro-Wiwa and others were arrested, Ledum Miti was one of them. He was the only one that was discharged and acquitted. If you ask him why, he might not be able to say. But you can say he was the lucky one. If he was executed, it would have been the Ogoni 10. But they let him off the hook. He survived it and later became the president of the movement for the survival of Ogoni people, Mossop. I discussed with Ledum Miti. I asked him what happened. Were there mistakes that were made? And we are raising this subject at this time so that we don't forget that the Niger Delta is in crisis. You know, when we talk about poverty, we say the northern part of Nigeria has the largest concentration of poor people. But when you go to the Niger Delta and you look at the environment, that is poverty, glaring poverty. You go to oil-producing communities in Saudi Arabia, in America, what do you see? You see beautiful cities. You come to Nigeria, you see polluted environment. We've not been able to tackle the problem. Yar'Adua attempted. He calmed the nerves of the militant when he went into a deal with them. But what that did was to make the militants millionaires, not to solve the problems of the generality of the people of the Niger Delta. He made people like Tompolo powerful. And at some point, Tompolo could threaten the Nigerian state. People like Tom Ateke, they were later made kings in their communities. Asari Dokubo. But the problems of the Niger Delta remains. The problem of Ogoni land remains. The Tinubu government is negotiating with the Ogoni people to bring back Shell. Okay, let's go back into time. Ledum Michi on state affairs.
You met Abacha before he became the head of state, right?
Yes, we did.
Can you tell us what happened?
Well, some of these are stories that I thought I should put in my memoirs, and not clearly because you've asked. I've had an occasion, I think, where Abacha flew myself and Ken specially to a meeting, a plane from Port Harcourt to a meeting. That was when he was, I think, defense minister or so, and we had lunch together, where he wanted an insight into what he thought was the Ogoni problem, and we spoke with him. And we thought we were speaking to someone who now understood us and would be in a position to now advise the government in those circumstances. But as you know, the facts have now turned that maybe we were mistaken.
The first time you were arrested, was it obvious to you that the man was going to kill?
I do not think, I believe. And I can tell you also that even up to days to the execution, even Ken himself didn't believe that it was going to lead to death.
Did Ken offer Okuntimu $50,000 to save him?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am one of those out who saw him. I saw him, I think, on the 7th or 8th before, and they were executed on the 10th. So, and at that time, they were still kept, or Ken was still kept in the military barracks where we were detained. And when I came out, because the judgment was on the 31st of October, and then when they said that I was not guilty and set free, I had left my stuff in that detail. Up till today, I've not gone back. I wanted to use that as excuse for me to be able to get there. And when I went there, I think on the 7th, and I told him, look, they said we had 30 days to appeal, and I was briefing him about what we were doing about the appeal. The appeals we filed, one on behalf of the wife, one on behalf of the father, the one we have written, and I was getting also some people to write other appeals. And he was like, hey, wait a minute, why are you worrying yourself about all this? I'm happy you are out because I know the struggle continues with you. Put your efforts in trying to remove us from this military detention to civil prisons, for the purposes of so that we can at least get through to this. And I don't want to be under the crucible of the military that they can wake up today, you cannot even have access to food and all those sort of things. So I believe that up till that time, there was no thinking that it will lead to death.
So you were surprised when they were hanged on the 10th of November,
I must tell you,
1995.
devastatedly so.
Tell us about Ken. Who was Ken?
Ken, I think, is somebody who is so much full of humor that I think the Nigerian state did not understand him. He lived before his times. Almost all the things he predicted are coming together, are coming to bear. He was a writer, as you know, and I think that because of that, when he dramatizes things, people take sometimes that it means a different thing. Most times, you don't read a writer on the surface. He loved the country and thought that Nigeria should be built on the basis of justice.
Were there some wrongs that were committed during that struggle?
Obviously, there might be one or two things that happened that clearly you do, and we saw certain things that we didn't like.
Did you warn Ken Saro-Wiwa then that he was taking it too far?
No. It's not a question of wanting this, but clearly when we saw that certain things didn't go well, there are cases where even Ken and myself arrested some youths who did certain things which we felt were infracting the law, and we had them arrested.
But the youths were working for Mossop.
They were not, I mean, clearly you can see people who might use, I mean, at that stage, every person that happened was always, oh, it must be Mossop that is doing that. We clearly, I mean, I cannot say that Ogoni Society was without its own crime.
That's why I asked if NICOP was a mistake.
No, but if this every youth that you see there that you say is NICOP, you must be registered in that sort of a situation. But we had occasion, and I'm saying so. And if you see even the judgment of that tribunal, one of the areas that they said they made to say that they said, well, there were evidence because one of the guys who testified on the prosecution with the I cross-examined him, and he admitted how many times I used him, a police officer. I'm Stephen Hasso, he's still in the police. And he admitted how many times I used him to arrest youths that were doing things that we felt were criminal. I mean, they were who committed crime.
At that point, some people felt that NICOP youths were cannibals.
Well, I do.
Did you hear about that? Did you read about it?
There are all sort of things that people say many times
because
about it.
The corpse of the Ogoni 4 disappeared.
Well, that again is a different matter. We were out there. At a stage, there were conflicting views. Even the law enforcement agents, Como and Okuntimo, held a press conference in which they said they now had the remains of those people. I mean, so these are all sort of stories.
What is your impression?
But I hate to go into these issues for one reason. The reason is that the Ogonis have done remarkably well in reconciliation. That today, those families of those 4 and what you call it, we are on perfect, and we've all realized that we were being used against each other in order to destroy our people.
Do you want Shell to return to Ogoni land?
Absolutely not. Not me, but the Ogonis do not.
Did you at any time suggest to Father Kuka that you want Shell to return to Ogoni land?
Absolutely not.
State Affairs with Edmond Lupino is live. Stay tuned.
Yes, you heard Ledum Miti there. Now, there's a book here. Ledum Miti, from the story he told, was one of the Ogonis arrested. If he was executed, it would have been Ogoni 10. But he was discharged and later became the president of Mossop. If you want to read the story of what happened, this autobiography entitled Demonstration of Craze, Struggles and Transition to Democracy in Nigeria, written by Abdul Oro, is the book to go to. Chapter 9 of the book is about Ken Saro-Wiwa, detailed account. Chapter 9 is the tragedy of drama. This is one of the best autobiographies to be written by a Nigerian civil rights advocate. Struggles and Transition to Democracy. Demonstration of Craze by Abdul Oro. You know, I always hug this book. And it's a big book, a detailed account of civil society movement in Nigeria, 614 pages. 614 pages. I have interviewed Abdul Oro on this book. It's on my YouTube channel. Some of us are listening on X, some are on Facebook, some of us are listening on YouTube. On whatever platform you are listening to, go on my YouTube channel, look for the interview with Abdul Oro, the author of the book Demonstration of Craze. I recommend this book to you. Find it, order it, read it, and improve your understanding of the Nigerian crisis. You will find the book on udarabooks.com. It is scrolling on the screen. You can see the website address. You can also order it through Udara Books WhatsApp number. We bring these books to you to expand your horizon, to make you smarter in your business, in politics, in economy. If reading builds the individual, reading fortifies the nation. A nation that reads is a nation that innovates. Consider the knowledge economy. In the 21st century, natural resources are depreciating assets, but human capital is the only appreciating one. Countries like Finland, Japan, and South Korea, these are countries that boast high literacy and robust publishing industries. What do you find when you look at these countries? They consistently top global innovation indexes. These countries understand that a reader is a critical thinker. Reading is feeding the mind. Feed the mind. I said I'm going to recommend 10 books to you on this edition of State Affairs. And these books are classics. I have recommended Blood and Oil. I have recommended My Participations, the autobiography of a former governor of Osun State, Chief Bisi Akonde. I have recommended The Scramble for Africa by Thomas Peckenham. I have also told you that the story of Kent Saro-Wiwa is well written in the book Demonstration of Craze by Abdul Oro. Leo Tolstoy is the author of the book War and Peace. War and Peace. From the title, you know what to read in this book. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. The books are on udarabooks.com. udarabooks.com. I have read this book, Witness to Justice, by Matthew Cooker, the bishop. Witness to Justice. Have you read that book? You know, when I read the book the first time, I said, no. How can Matthew Cooker say this about what happened in Ogoni land? You know, at some point you would think that he was supporting Paul Okontimu. But he had access to information I didn't have access to at that time when I read the book the first time. I read it again the second time. And the third time, I don't read a book once. What I do, I don't need to finish a book. You know, sometimes I start a book from the middle. But for Witness to Justice, I paid attention to it because I am interested in the Niger Delta. And I said, no, I must speak with Bishop Kukah. I must ask him why he wrote the stories in that book. Remember, Kukah was in Oputa panel when the Ogoni matter came up. Okay, let me not tell you everything. You will hear from Matthew Kukah, the Catholic bishop.
In the book, it seemed at a point you became sympathetic to Dauda Komo and Okontimo. You said Komo and Okontimo are most vilified. You used the word vilified. Why did you choose that word?
It is not, you know, and this is why I learned a lot of lessons, you know, in my work with Oputa panel. Because you also learn not to take things at face value. Because I felt during Oputa panel, there were certain people that I felt that if I saw them, for me, there was almost a moment of madness in me that I would either not talk to them, if I permit the expression, I would strangle them if I saw them. That was how angry I felt about people like Okontimo. Dauda Komo was somebody, I didn't know him that closely. But when Dauda Komo came before Oputa panel and told us his own side of the story, and when Kontimo came and told us his own side of the story, and the things that he himself did, it ran, in very many respects, counter to some of the allegations that have been made against them. They were not angels, but they were not normal times either. And I remember that when we had some really very interesting cases. For example, when one of the girls, they were accusing Okontimo of rape and so on and so forth. When the girl was brought, and they asked her, they said, look, he said a soldier raped her, and that, so they now asked, and that day there was no light. But when Okontimo came, Okontimo said at that point there was no NEPA in the village. So the issue of NEPA having, as we say in Nigeria, taking light did not arise. And they asked the girl, how did this soldier rape you? He said, well, he was holding a gun and a torchlight. And I remember Mrs. Pam, the female member of our panel, saying, my dear, I'm a woman. For a man to rape you, he will require to have at least one hand free. So this guy could not have been holding his gun and holding a torchlight and raping you at the same time. When some of these people came to present their evidence, it was clear either they had not been fully prepared or they didn't have a story to tell. And I remember one interesting incident. I think the picture is in my book.
Yeah.
When one lady appeared, and when she started speaking, one of the Ogoni activists actually started saying to her in Ogoni, it is time to start crying now. It is time to start crying now. Now, I don't speak the language. But when we came out of that session, the guy cornered me and said, look, Father, these people are fake. I'm an Ogoni man. I understand the language. This is what this guy was saying to this woman. Now, I'm not saying these things did not exist, but it's just like every other thing, like most of the stories you hear now in Nigeria, there is truth behind them. But when they tell you that somebody stole 500 million or whatever, fine, it is actually true that he may have stolen 500 million. But you wait until those people climb the stand to defend themselves, and then you will know whether they chopped alone or they chopped with other people.
I want you to be categorical here. Do you feel or do you think that Mr. Nasikbo, the one who spent some time in cell D1, do you feel he lied?
I'm not sure. I don't. The evidence speaks for itself.
You were quite diplomatic in stating it in the book.
I didn't want to be offensive.
But what do you think today? Did he lie?
Two things. The first, we went to sell
D1.
We went to sell D1. I remember the drama in Port Harcourt. We were sitting and just hearing this story. All of a sudden, from nowhere, Justice Oputa stood up and said to me, he said, get up. I said, where are we going? He said, get up. I said, where are we going? He said, we're going to the prison. I said, Papa, we have not prepared. He said, just get up, let's go. I couldn't believe it. We all got up because throughout the sitting of Oputa panel, Justice Oputa never stood up one single day from beginning of the sitting to the end. That was the first time. So we got up. There was so much confusion. He said, we're going to the prison. Now, we all got into our vehicles, and Justice Oputa, as always, insisted that I should ride with him. So when we entered the car, I said, Papa, what is happening? He said, don't worry, let's go. We want, surprise is the best. We are going for a locus in quo. That is the place in which this thing happened. We arrived at the prison, nobody was expecting us. They opened up the prison. Justice Oputa introduced us, and we said, this is what we came for. This is what we came for. So we entered the prison. He said, we want to see cell D1. So the man took us to the cell. First of all, we want to see where Ken was hung. So we went. The man showed us the place and showed us the slab. Then we turned round and went to cell D1. If you go to cell D1, from what we saw, has no windows. The only thing cell D1 had was slashes at the top. Even slashes in a way and manner that even if you climbed up and looked, you can't see, you can only see down. Okay? And from there, we climbed the place. There was no way you could get a view of the hanging place. You couldn't see it. So, and this young man said this is where he was, and that he stood there, and that he heard Ken Saro-Wiwa utter these words. Now, please, no matter how exceptionally brilliant somebody may be, how could somebody stand there and listen to the words of a man who is about to be hung and memorize all that speech? And secondly, what kind of a brain, what kind of an emotional state are you in that you are watching somebody who is going to be hung and you are not so emotionally destabilized, but you are still able to listen and memorize his final words?
So he lied.
I didn't say he lied. I'm just telling you the facts. You make up your mind.
How did you feel when you walked into the gallows where Ken Saro-Wiwa was killed?
You know, initially I didn't want to enter the place. I really didn't. And I really, the emotions, I just had to manage to control my emotions. The man was trying to describe all the things for us, but I just couldn't, I didn't pay attention to what he was saying, because he was talking about, what they normally would do. They take you here, they do this also, and so this is where the hanging takes place. So I went through the motions, but really, my emotions they were really overpowering. I couldn't. So it's not something I want to remember, really.
Did Dauda Komo tell the commission where they were buried?
Who?
Dauda Komo.
Well, let me tell you an interesting story and what got me into trouble. They were buried as it would happen in a military regime, marked graves. It took the generosity of General Abdul Salam's government to respond to the appeal that the remains be given back to the families. That was done. Now, when that happened, I was so excited because, like I said, I was emotionally connected to the struggle. I then wrote an article for Newswatch magazine commending the federal government for helping the families of Ken and his other colleagues to bring to closure, at least at some level, the fact that they had the remains of their people. So I thought the General Abdul Salam government had done extraordinarily well. You couldn't bring back life. But nothing can be more painful than knowing that your loved one has been buried somewhere in these 923,000 square kilometers of land called Nigeria, and you can't figure out where. Now, interestingly, it was that article that got me into trouble, because that was the article that the family of the Ogoni Four took and used to say that I was commending the federal government because Ken was my friend. Incidentally, and quite interestingly, when the Ogoni Four came to the Oputa panel, their memo was titled "The Killing and Consumption of the Ogoni Four." And when Dauda Kumo came, Dauda Kumo actually, rather interestingly, told us a very passionate story of what he himself did. Because Okuntimo rushed to the scene of the crime. And until that time, all of us, including myself, I remember the gory photographs in Newswatch and other magazines, showing very clearly that these people were killed, their remains put in a Volkswagen vehicle and burnt. Okuntimo said that he actually got there, and all he found on the scene was the jaw of one of the Ogoni Four. The rest of the body, nobody knew where they vanished to, including their bones.
Okuntimu told me that he felt their bodies were consumed by the cannibals in Nikop.
That is why the family referred to, they named their petition, "The Killing and Consumption of Ogoni Four."
Did you believe at the time that Nikop members would consume the body of their kinsmen?
I am not a forensic expert, and I really didn't have the liberty. That was really is way out of my control. But let me say, when you have these moments of tragedy, when you have these tragic situations, unless you have what Delegiwa used to refer to as a diabolical sense of humor, it's very difficult to even go back trying to process all those things. So it was not something that I was prepared to pay attention to. But if I were an Ogoni man, it's something that I would like to follow through, because somehow memory has a way of being shaped by circumstances. It might be possible that you can find, and this doesn't have to be the responsibility of the state, you can find primary sources from people who participated in this crime, who can actually say what happened.
I'm discussing with the author of the book, Witness to Justice, Bishop Matthew Kukah.
Bush Radio. Bush Radio.
Your real talk radio.
State Affairs with Edmond Dubilo is live. Stay tuned.
So Matthew Kukah's book is the book of the day. The book is entitled Witness to Justice. In the book, he told a broad spectrum of the story he narrated in that interview. Witness to Justice is a classic literature towards understanding the crisis of the Nigerian state. It gives a deeper perspective of the Ogoni crisis. It unveils the Niger Delta as a place requiring urgent intervention. The writing style is reachable. It is one of the best books on the Nigerian crisis, and I must give kudos to Matthew Kukah for writing that book. Witness to Justice is on udarabooks.com. Get it, read it, and again, give books out as gifts. I believe one of the best gifts you should give a man is the gift of knowledge. So we should also learn to give books as gifts. I do that all the time, yeah? I am the founder of udarabooks.com. So one thing you always get when you come around me are books. I give out a lot of books. And I also discovered that a lot of Nigerians don't read the books I give them. I also discovered that some persons have bought books from us. They've not read them over the last 2 years. Yes, it can happen, yes, depending on the number of books you have. There are some books I bought about 4 years ago. I've not read them. But I have a section, because I have a lot of books. A lot of books. A lot of books. But I read every day. I read every day. There's no day I don't read. I've read Kuka before I came on the show. I read Kuka. I looked at Ike Okonte's book again before I came on the show. Take note of this. Citizens who read deeply are less susceptible to disinformation. They can hold power accountable. When a nation's reading habits decline, its civic discourse devolves into sound bites and outrage, a fertile ground for authoritarianism and insurgency. Look at the Nigerian social media space. Look at discussions. Are you comfortable with the depth of discussions around you? If you are not comfortable, what can you do? How will you help solve the problem? That was the question that led us to establishing Udara Books. At some point, we felt, I'll be on radio, somebody calls. You see, the person makes an attempt to break it down. But you would see that if this person had read deeply, he would have been able to express himself better. I even learned from that. So the search for knowledge should be a national agenda for Africa to redeem itself. Africa must invest in knowledge. Africans must invest in knowledge. Especially for those who have the wherewithal. You should have a budget for books, for your children, for your friends. I can understand those who are struggling to eke out a living. That's why we need libraries, where people can walk into and read books on the Niger Delta, on the crisis in the north. Now, there is a book about the Sokoto Caliphate. If that book was written long ago, if you read that book, the Sokoto Caliphate, you'll find it on udarabooks.com. If you read the book, you would envisage the crisis that is going on now. Because the book is revealing, it defines the social structure of Sokoto Caliphate. And with that kind of social structure, it is glaring that the consequences will be insurgency and violence. Glaring. Because it was a PhD thesis that was converted into a book. If you read the Sokoto Caliphate, you would see what the future of Nigeria will be like if we don't take certain decisions now. That is why it is critical at this juncture that Nigerians must put these questions to the men who are out saying they want to lead the country. I don't know if Tinubu can answer the questions anymore, because he has had the opportunity for 3 years. Has Tinubu made a difference? Has Tinubu made a difference? Has Tinubu impacted the Niger Delta? You can see the story being told on this edition of the program. You've heard from Okuntimu, you've heard from Ledumite, you've heard from Kuka, Yemi Farumbi has spoken about Adakaburu, you heard the voice of General Labi Sama. The story is deep. We cannot unravel all parts of the story, but we are bringing this story as a reflection into the future. What about the Zaki Biam massacre? Citizens who read deeply will know how to tackle disinformation. They will know how to hold power accountable. You know, we can't hold power accountable here. That is why the guys are riding roughshod on the people. Governors, local government chairmen, presidents. A judiciary that reads widely is one that interprets law with wisdom. A military that studies strategy is one that wins without fighting. Reading drives institutional integrity. Leaders must model this behavior, the behavior of reading. I know that Shea Makinde reads a lot. I can say that. I can confirm that. Because I know he reads a lot. I hope Peter Obi reads too. You see, when a president or prime minister references a specific historical biography or an economic theory in a speech, it signals that depth matters. When a president makes references to books, when leaders, governors, it elevates the national conversation from transactional politics to philosophical governance. That is what we need. Philosophical governance where leaders are thinkers, where leaders are deep thinkers in the interest of the common good. As we round off this edition of State Affairs, it's important we make this point. Shell is a multinational organization in the business of meeting global energy demands. It's been operating in Nigeria since 1937. Some would say they are winding down. Shell has been exploring and producing oil and gas onshore and offshore. Over the years, it dominated Nigeria's petroleum industry, earning billions of dollars. Shell operated Nigeria's largest oil and gas joint venture on behalf of government-owned Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company operated the Bonga Field, Nigeria's first deep-water oil discovery. That facility had the capacity to produce more than 200,000 barrels per day of oil and 150 milliliters of standard 150 millimeters standard cubic feet of gas per day. That is 150 millimeters standard cubic feet of gas per day. The organization produced about 70% of Nigeria's gas supply. Shell activities in the Niger Delta generated heated reactions from the local population to the extent that armed groups began sabotaging pipelines and kidnapping oil workers. From the lessons we have learned, this public lecture by Ledon Miti, having discovered Ledon Miti, we decided to bring Ledon Miti to Ibadan to deliver the Splash FM lecture. Let's listen to part of the lecture that was delivered by Ledun Miti. He takes us into the pipeline.
And I'm serious about this. And I said this, and I've said it before, that in the olden days, I mean many years, all the years that they have gotten oil from those communities there, they say they have been asking them, said, government, please just give us some water. We want clean water. And the government says, don't worry, it's in the pipeline. They say education, they say it's in the pipeline. They say, what do you want? We want good hospitals. They say it's in the pipeline. So some youths have decided to open the pipeline. They decided to open the pipeline so that these things, instead of waiting, what their parents were waiting for and did not come, they can open it and see what actually this education and everything can come. And what I'm saying this on a more serious note is that many people do not even know that some of the problems, how did all this, what you call militancy in the Niger Delta started? It started with something. When the oil company, most of the youths went to the oil companies and said, employ us. The company said, no, we don't have jobs, but we can get you something. They have cleared in one way, they are right. Because the oil industry is not labor intensive. One person can stay here and pull one thing and then oil flows, that's all. But people want job. So they started with some policy that many of you here do not know about. They call it stay at home. What it meant is that, don't worry us, stay at home, we will pay you. And they were paying as much as 30,000 to some youths in communities. Now, you know, these things happen when the company has finished, they move out. So you paid someone who had no 10 kobo, 30,000 for doing nothing. Now, and you want to go. Maybe you don't want to pay again. So these people start holding you that we want money. And you bring Mopo to stop them. So they find a counter to the Mopo. And that's how the militancy and armed thing started. So some of the practices of the oil companies themselves led to what we have reaped.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
I accuse the ethnic majority who run Nigeria of practicing genocide against the Ogoni people. I accuse the oil companies which prospect for oil in Ogoni of encouraging genocide against the Ogoni people. I accuse Shell and Chevron of practicing racism against the Ogoni people because they do in Ogoni what they do not do in other parts of the world where they prospect for oil. The devastation of the Ogoni countryside, the complete destruction of the Ogoni ecosystem, the dehumanization of the Ogoni people, the denial to them of education and other health facilities and other social amenities, all these together have led the Ogoni down the way of extinction. I accuse the Nigerian government and the international, multinational companies which prospect for oil in Ogoni of genocide. I appeal to the international community, to the British government, the American government, the Japanese government, the countries of the European community who buy oil from Nigeria to come now to the aid of the Ogoni people and stop this genocide.
Yeah, that last voice is that of Ken Saro-Wiwa, accusing oil companies and the Nigerian government of genocide in Ogoni land. Hundreds of court cases have been brought over oil spills and pollution. In 2011, Shell admitted the 2009 spilling of 14,000 tons of crude oil in the creeks of the Niger Delta. 14,000 tons of crude oil were spilled in the Niger Delta in shell operation. You see, that 14,000 tons doubled that of the year before and quadrupled that of 2007. This shows a global pattern in the operations of oil companies in less developed states. If you have read Gary Leach, the director of the Center for International Studies, if you've read his book entitled Capitalism, a Structural Genocide, what Gary did in that book was to narrate stories of how the acute poverty in Latin America came about. He said that the most profound and depressing experiences he had in Latin America occurred when traveling alone in a canoe down the Napo River in the Ecuadorian Amazon in 1989. Leach noticed that United States-based multinationals, including Texaco, Occidental, Conoco, Amoco, and Mobil, had been operating throughout the Napo region of the Amazon since the 1960s, with devastating consequences for the indigenous population and rainforest. He said Texaco alone spilled 16.8 million gallons of oil into the Ecuadorian Amazon, more than 1.5 times as much as spilled in the Exxon Valdez disaster in Alaska. You saw how they cleaned the Alaska disaster with ease. It happened in America. Where the Niger Delta, nothing happens. They don't clean it, they leave it there. So as a result of the spills and the dumping of untreated chemicals and industrial solvents into the waters of the rainforest, the people around the Napo River in Ecuador began to have cancer, miscarriage, and birth defects, with hundreds of deaths. The local population was decimated and abandoned, as Ogoniland was abandoned. They do this as they take away high profits to their countries. The experience made Gary Leach to conclude that the capitalism of America and friends is structural genocide, that it uses politics to shape economy, but it ruthlessly deploys economy to destroy the politics of the people. Now, read this book entitled, This is Nigeria. This is Nigeria, a sociological x-ray of Nigerian professionals. You know Tola Adeniyi? He's the author of this book. This is Nigeria, a sociological x-ray of Nigerian professionals. You know, if you look at the book, he talked about the police, he talked about journalists, he talked about Nigerian professionals, technocrats, and how they've aided the crisis of the Nigerian state. The judiciary, he talked about teachers, civil servants. You can look at this book and say the author defined the Nigerian character. Talked about a peasant farmer. I highly recommend this book to you. This is Nigeria by Tola Adeniyi. Yesterday, I interviewed Dari Babarinsa. Expect that interview. You will love it. You know, Dari Babarinsa released a new book recently entitled Eat Now, Pay Later. Eat Now, Pay Later. It's a book of selected essays on Nigerian history. I interviewed him on chapter 2 of the book on Abiola. He knew Abiola very well. Eat Now, Pay Later. It's a book that will explore your word as you explore the words in the book. And the interview with Dari Babarinsa will be published soon on YouTube. So get ready to learn new information on what happened to MKO Abiola. It is a detailed interview, as detailed as the book that caused the interview. When I read the book, I said, no, I must interview Dari Babarinsa. Dari Babarinsa is an acclaimed journalist. His new book is entitled Eat Now, Pay Later. The word for sale, money, power, and the traders who batter the earth's resources. That's the 9th book I am recommending to you. The word for sale, money, power, and the traders who batter the earth's resources. It has to do with oil too, trade in Africa. The Looting Machine. That's the last book I'm recommending on this edition of State Affairs. The Looting Machine. Warlords, tycoons, smugglers, and systematic theft of Africa's wealth. Written by Tom Burgess. Tom Burgess. The title of the book is The Looting Machine. I'll be back on Tuesday, 9 p.m. West African time. I usually come up between 9 and 10 p.m. So join me again on Tuesday for another discourse on the Nigerian question. And we are also going to bring in international dimensions of issues. Thank you for being there, and thank you for supporting the show. We appreciate you. So visit our website, udarabooks.com. You'll find books. We have more than 2,000 titles on that website. Our focus are books on history, politics, and power. So you can contact the numbers scrolling on the screen if you are interested in any of the books we have recommended today. You can also visit the website without chatting with anybody. You just go on the website, make your order, and your book will be couriered to you. I am Edmond Opilo. Thank you for being part of today's edition of the show.